Okay, so good morning again and welcome. We thank you for joining us today for our alternative hiring seminar. This topic and our event have been in discussions for the last few years actually, as a huge portion of our chamber membership is struggling with hiring and retaining their workforce. But there is good news. There are also groups of people who are ready and willing to work that we will be connecting you with today. We're excited to share some of the outstanding programs throughout our region that are able to support businesses and our nonprofit organizations with their hiring efforts. So I'd first like to thank our Regional Economic Development Committee for their support in planning this event. I'd also like to thank our IDEA Committee, which stands for Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, and Awareness, and our Small Business Committee for their support in marketing the event to help us spread the word. We will have some Q&A at the end of each presentation today, as well as at the end of the workshop. And we'll also be emailing each guest a document with the contact information for all of our panelists following the event. We will also have some breakout rooms at the very end, so if you want to connect with one of our speakers directly, you will be able to. So now it's my pleasure to introduce the chairman of our Regional Economic Development Committee and a CMC board member, Jonathan Williams with Real Projectives, who will moderate today's program. Good morning, Jonathan.
Good morning, Christy, and good morning, all of you. So thrilled to have so many people joining in for this wonderful topic. It's a good testament to how important it still is, and to help all of us figure out different ways and different sources to find good folks for our organization. So again, good morning. I'm Jonathan. I'm the founder and owner of Real Projectives and have been the chair of the Regional Economic Development Committee. And I'm really honored to kind of moderate and MC this roundtable event. As Christy mentioned, we're going to do this kind of in a format. We have several people from the Department of Labor, and then a few people from Arundel and Howard County, as well as the ArcCentral, Maryland. And so we'll do it kind of roundtable style. Each presenter will have, about 7 or 8 minutes or so to give their introduction about their programs they have available and how they might fit your kind of needs. And then what we'll do is we'll take, as Christy mentioned, a few immediate questions, if there are any, right with each presenter, and then we'll move on to the next presenter, followed by, after all the presenters go around, we'll have an open Q&A as you guys come up with questions. You can feel free to put them in the chat, or I think we'll try to actually just let people in and speak as need be as the time comes. And then also we're going to try something different, which is to have some breakout rooms at the end. So if you have throughout the presentation identified an individual you'd like to connect with in a more personal basis, you can join a breakout room with that individual and get the contact information so you can have some good follow-up, because it's important we make connections as well, so you know how to kind of move forward after this presentation. So again, I'm thrilled. We've been talking about this for a while, and glad to have the presenters. Without further ado, I'd like to first introduce Bredt of the Department of Labor, who will be talking about using formerly incarcerated individuals and other options. So Ellen, good morning.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and share a screen. As Jonathan mentioned, I'm visiting from the Maryland Department of Labor. I am what's called a reentry navigator. Got it. There are a number of ways that I might be able to work with anyone on this call. First, I'll just give a little overview of the role of reentry navigator. There are 11 of us across the state of Maryland. And so at this time, every region in the state, including Central Maryland, is covered by individuals like myself who work with folks who are incarcerated to help help prepare them for the workforce. We also work with job seekers in the career center who are looking for work to try and help them productively rejoin the workforce. But I think the most relevant piece today is that we engage with the we engage with the employers in the region to try and provide access to not just untapped labor pools, but also to all the services that are available to businesses in the career center. So to dig a little deeper, the ways we work with businesses are first and foremost to engage and understand what your hiring needs are. Hang on, I can't move to the next slide. Yep, got it. When I talk about engaging, I mean, as a member of the Department of Labor, I'm looking to see how we can holistically help you with your business. Usually when it comes down to specifics, I'm working to bring a talent pool to you that you may not have had access to before. When I understand what the needs of the employers are that I work with, I try to help job seekers nurture those qualities, if it's skill sets or trainings or certifications, or just the ability to adapt to the workforce. That's what we do. I will get more into the talent pools that I represent because it is not all obvious. There are a number of incentives that I bring to the table, especially the federal bonding program and the work opportunity tax credit, but there are also other benefits to working with some of the folks that I've been assisting. And then at the end of the day, I'm always trying to make sure that all of the business services available from the Department of Labor and from Arundel Workforce Development Corporation are available to you. So how do I work with job seekers? I definitely, my whole team, we always provide career assistance, but we also try to navigate people into the industries that are most in need of talent. For example, apprenticeship in the trades, training programs for commercial driver's licenses, healthcare occupations. When a job seeker has all the qualifications to work except requires surrounding services, we make sure that we hook them up with an organization in the community that might be able to help them get to and from medical appointments, or help them obtain new clothing. And then I definitely connect people, the job seekers, with the bonding program, because that is a huge asset when looking for work. So the bonding program, if you're not familiar, I'll get to that in a minute. The work opportunity tax credit, I will just say that if you hire an individual who was incarcerated within the last 12 months, released from incarceration, or who was convicted of a felony within the last 12 months, there's $2,400 and maybe more in the works for you. There's a little bit of detail involved, so if that's of interest after we've talked, definitely reach out to me and I would hook you up with someone to make that happen. But every single individual you hire within that and other categories makes you eligible for yet another tax credit. And I'll let Mark tell you how much you can get for hiring a vet. Again, if you hire someone connected by me, you have the support that they've been receiving all along, but they also receive the support from me and my team during employment as needed. And I will also go into some of the amazing training programs that people have gone through in the state prison system. They are not what most people would expect. The federal bonding program. Okay. This one should be of interest to most employers. It's a fidelity bond, an incentive by the federal government, an offer to cover up to $5,000 for up to 6 months of any loss due to theft or fraud by an employee that you've hired. This is even negotiable. For some companies, $5,000 or 6 months is not really significant enough. It can be negotiated. I will say that this is the federal government and the state government saying, hey, if you see a candidate that has everything you need, this is the guy I'm looking for, but yet you are stopping because they have something in their background that's maybe concerning. This is the government saying, if you take a risk, we got your back. That's just it. And again, this is another conversation we can have separately. But I will say that I have dished out hundreds and hundreds of eligibility letters to candidates many of whom have been employed. And I will tell you that the state has received nearly 0 requests to take out that policy because the employment arrangement turned out to be acceptable. Okay, the biggest piece. the untapped talent pool that I keep referring to. Yes, there are job seekers coming to us all day, and being the Department of Labor, we have employers coming to us all day. Employers are saying we may go out of business if we don't staff. Job seekers are saying I keep applying and I get rejected or let go because of my background. I will say that 1 in 3 Americans roughly have a criminal background, something in their record. And also that since a few years ago, the ban the box law came into effect, for some reason, criminal background checks went through the ceiling. It is now almost ubiquitous that a third party comes along and does a background check. So we're working with individuals who are coming up on that radar to try and create the talent pool that you're looking for, so that those people can go back into the workforce. That's a third of the nation. But that's not everything. A little known fact is that there's a huge amount of talent and skill and ability waiting for work release employment from incarceration. These folks have either gone through training or had a lifetime of experience in whatever their occupation is. They're incarcerated. They've had to be at the very minimum level of security need. In other words, absolutely no risk compared to the other people that they're with. They have to apply and request to be eligible for work release and be approved by about 7 levels of authority. And then a case manager works with them to identify occupations, and they can then apply like every other applicant and be actually taken to job interviews and attempt to get work. And I will say that, pretty much everyone I've ever met, and that's a lot, who are currently working on work release are adamant that they want to keep that job. Not only have they been showing up on time every day, going back, they know that when they're released, even if it's across the state, they would rather relocate to stay with that job than to have to give it up and start over again. They're some of the best employees in general. Another unlikely source of applicants might be road crew. Believe it or not, there's a common misconception that a road crew is a chain gang. It is not. Again, these individuals have had to be on the lowest level of authority or of risk for a long time. No escape risk, none of the things that you associate with individuals who are incarcerated. They then have to request to be eligible, be approved to be eligible. And then if a company, often it's a park or a corporate park that has needs around the grounds, but not always, it could be moving boxes, they can apply to get this assistance. And it sounds like you're just getting free labor. You're not. These people tend to get experience with the organization that hires them or brings them in. And they tend to go back and apply for jobs there. And they have some experience with the company. I'm happy to either talk to anyone who wants to learn about these things, or to put you in touch with someone, or even invite you in to meet case managers and individuals who've done this before, to understand what it is really like, what you're really looking at. Now, since COVID, this has been slow, but it is now becoming possible to go back and recruit within correctional facilities. There are, as I mentioned, training programs that I'll go through in a second, but there are a lot of ready, willing, and able individuals who are getting ready to come home and look for work. This could be a head start. Then I'll just go on to the correctional training programs, because I know that there are other people waiting. But again, this is just an overview of some of the ways that you might actually find that perfect candidate that you've been looking for. My favorite program within all of the institutions in the state is the Certified Peer Recovery Specialists. They are getting some of the best training. They are doing their clinical hours. What you have to do is work under a supervisor to basically counsel other people who have gone through something similar that you've gone through. They're being hired. I mean, so many new organizations are hiring peers. It boggles the mind. And these guys are coming out with absolute drive to save the world. But they're also certified, trained professionally, and have experience. It's something to behold. At least half of the institutions in the state go through Microsoft Office specialist training and certification. People are coming out as Excel specialists. They're coming out as Word specialists. They're coming out also learning Office assistant and office management skills, and the libraries in every facility are hiring and training and certifying clerks. There are, every single institution trains floor technicians and maintenance people, and they come out with a high level of skill. They know all the equipment, all the chemicals, all the procedures, and all the safety. They're proud of it. It's really a good thing to see. There's barbering programs in 2 or 3 institutions. I know those are harder to find employment for, but when you're looking for someone to fill a seat in your salon, you might want to talk to one of these guys. They are amazing. That's why the surprise for me was going into one of the facilities the first time and seeing all these nice haircuts. I was not expected. Okay, and again, this is just a drop in the bucket, but another really significant program is a meat cutting apprenticeship. These guys train for 5 years, 5,000 hours plus of classroom and on the job training. They are certified meat cutters and butchers. When they do come home, they've mostly been hired by Whole Foods and by individual small butcher shops. But I'm telling you that this is just 5 out of 6 out of easily dozens and dozens of quality training programs that I've had the ability, the experience observing. And I would be happy, if it makes sense to anyone here, to arrange meetings so that you could see some of these things, some of these programs. If you thought that maybe that training would help you better staff or diversify your employees, talk to me, because the world is opening back up. And that is it.
Thank you so much, Ellen. And a reminder, everybody, too, we will compile all of the presenters' contact information into a 1-pager or 2-pager, whatever it ends up being, and send that to all of you sometime after the event. So you'll have, if you haven't connected already, in the breakout room later on, you'll be able to look up the contact information. So,
and I sent these slides to Christy. I can also send the PDF to anyone else, but
fantastic.
Does
Anybody have any immediate questions for Ellen at this point? We'll try to just do it kind of open mic and see how it goes. There's not many of you, but we'll give that a try first.
Hi, my name is Kim. I did have one question. What support, can you give us an example of the support services that you offer applicants and employers during the process?
Sure. I'm one of a whole team across the state. So, for example, when someone is wanting, suppose you're looking for, I don't know, a peer recovery support specialist, and I have someone coming out or who has come to me looking for work in that field. I will work with them to try and hone their resume and understand what it is that an employer is looking for. I'm already doing that inside the facilities with these training programs, but I will start working with them to put all the pieces in a row to be successful and to also retain their employment. In other words, they're going to need more than just a job in many cases. They're going to need some transportation. They may need a support group around them. Depending on the occupation they're in, they may need to surround themselves with a support. So if they're going into the field of peer recovery, for example, I'm going to work with them to find a support group for themselves. Then as they go through the application process, if we're seeing that it isn't happening, I will maybe help them hone their references. After they're employed, I will check back in with them weekly if I don't hear from them. And if there are things that are not falling into place, I'll help. If you're wanting to find staff to fill a need, say, I don't know, retail, you name it, and I'm working with you to try and find people to fit that, I'm going to work with you to like help the fit, really solidify over time,
Very nice. Thank you so much.
case by case.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great. Thanks again so much, Ellen. In the interest of time, I think we'll move on to our next presenter. And again, there'll be an open G&A kind of general question period later on too. So jot your comments down and we'll come back to them. Thanks again, Ellen. Next up, also from the Department of Labor, we have Mark Pindell to talk about opportunities to connect with veterans, military families, and spouses. So Mark, welcome this morning.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Jonathan. I will share my screen now. Okay, so I'll be covering our veterans program that's located within the American Job Center. And Ellen and I are both in the same center in Linthicum. And so I'll be covering a lot of material just to show how we are entwined with both our veteran job seekers and our veteran employers, or employers who are interested in hiring veterans. And so our program helps those individuals with job search, networking, not just veterans networking with other resources, but employers working with other resources. We also offer training and references to other programs that either the veteran or their spouse or maybe potential employer might be interested in. And so our mission is to provide tools and job seeking resources to improve the quality of life and improvement standard of living for our citizens and maximize their potential employment in a competitive economy. And so our resource center, employment resource library, and we connected with multiple partners within our facility and around the county and state, job postings, job fairs, job recruitments. I'm one of the resource providers that assist with the Fort Meade Job Fair that they put on quarterly every year. And also we're in the process of putting together a spouse job fair in May, which is coming up. Our Veterans Program Employment Manager is Mr. Leroy Thomas for the Maryland Department of Labor and Division of Workforce Development, and he oversees our entire state program. There are currently 5 regional managers across the state, which manage a team of vet staff that assists with job seekers. The managers are all trained to do business-to-business services, helping employers get connected to resources and talent pools that they may or may not be aware of. And so the purpose of our program is to serve eligible veterans, spouses, and caregivers as it relates to US 38 USC 4101 and 4211. And so the US DOL Jobs for Veteran State Grant Program covers assistance to both employers who are interested in hiring veterans and to our veteran population. And so we connect with transitioning service members that are looking for employment opportunities after they leave the service, as well as their eligible spouses and caregivers, in addition to our reservists and National Guard members as well. One of the most hidden talent pools out there is our veteran spouses, because they move from base to base with their veteran family members. And so these folks are experienced, have a lot of great talent, which, unfortunately, they easily get overlooked. But the good thing about it is they stay up on top of their certifications, their training, their experience. And so they are a great asset to our community. Our mission statement is to support transitioning service members, veterans, and their families. And then our vision statement: create and maintain an elite, informed team of professionals who are committed and equipped with knowledge, skills, and abilities to assist veterans and their families, connecting businesses, creating a positive employment network for our veteran population. And we have veterans that are moving into the state at different installations around the state all the time. So again, a great asset at your fingertips. Okay, our core values is excellence, loyalty, integrity, teamwork, and empowerment. And these are ingrained in us during our military, I guess you could say, basic training, and is consistently reminded and instilled in us at every installation we go to. You'll find that some military members, including myself today, still get up at dark 30. My wife keeps wondering why I'm up at 5, but I don't have to be at work until 7:30. And so, you'll see a lot of military members do the same thing. For whatever reason, we're early risers. We also like stability when it comes to employment. If you give us a task or a job and you tell us what needs to be done, we'll go ahead and do it. And if you ask us, hey, what do you think where we can improve, we'll also put our core values to work and come up with some potential suggestions that could ultimately benefit the company. And so I work with a team of disabled veterans outreach program specialists that work one-on-one with veterans and eligible spouses. And so when they send me a list of resumes and say, hey, this person is ready to get to work, here's a copy of their resume. If you have any employers out there that's interested with someone with these skill sets, let us know. And then at the same time, whenever I get job announcements from employers, I take those job announcements and I send it over to my staff who are working one-on-one with veterans and see which employment opportunities that may interest them, which is a great partnership and collaboration. In addition to that, if we don't have anything, then we'll connect with our resource partners. Now, I would like to say that we have a veteran who's available to work in any open vacancy you may have, but we understand that's not always the case. Our main goal is to assist employers finding the right candidate for the right position. But again, we'd hope it's a veteran, but if it's not, that's okay too, as long as we know that you can rely on us to provide a great talent pool that you can tap into for your vacancies. And then this is where my duty description falls under, which is a local veterans employment representative, where I do business-to-business services. We have a program within the Maryland Workforce Exchange where I help set up business solutions and recruitment accounts within our database. And what does that do? That basically allows you to tap into a huge labor pool of potential candidates across the state. I would set up your account, give you recruitment access, post your open vacancies within a database so job seekers across the state can see what are you actually recruiting for. At the same time, give you an opportunity to virtually recruit based on your vacant position duty requirements, and you can pull up resumes for those folks that are a close match to what you're looking for. Okay. And Ellen mentioned about the work opportunity tax credit. Yes, there are some programs, both state and federal, that you could potentially apply for if you're hiring a veteran who just so happened to be a dislocated worker or someone who's been out of work for long periods of time. How we operate: job clubs, job fairs, veteran service organization, colleges and universities, community partnerships, government entities. All of us at the at the American Job Center, we all work together to get that client, whether it's a job seeker or an employer, the resources they need to meet the objective that they're looking for. And so if we don't have it, we can definitely get you connected to someone that does have it. All right, ultimate goal: to meet the needs, as I stated earlier. Goals of veterans, eligible spouses, and employers: provide individualized career services for veterans, job development for veterans, particularly those determined to be job ready after receipt of an individualized career service from DVOP, provide a full range of employment and training services available to veterans, transitioning service members, and eligible spouses. There's a motto with our career centers: veterans have priority service. So if we host a job fair or a hiring event at any one of our facilities across the state, veterans get to meet with employers first, usually the first half hour to 45 minutes, and then it's open to the rest of the general public. Conduct outreach with employers and activities to create veteran-friendly business partners that are willing to support job development and the referral of veterans to their appropriate job openings. There's also programs out there if a business is looking for a particular service or instruction on something, we can get you connected to one of our resource partners that can help with that planning. And are there any questions? And I will stop sharing my screen. And there's my contact information right there for those who are interested. My office number is 410-424-3246.
Great, thank you, Mark. Any immediate questions from anybody for Mark?
Hi, my name is Deltrice George with the Department of Commerce, and I just have one question. I guess it's for both Mark and Ellen. Are there opportunities for community partners or nonprofit organizations to partner with you to connect their clients, their business clients? They have workforce components. They have entry-level skills or credentialed skills to be connected with suitable suitable businesses or employers.
Yes,
Oftentimes they
ma'am.
don't have the arm to reach or, the bandwidth.
Yes, ma'am. Usually the main thing we run across, depending upon here in Anne Arundel County, since we don't have the transportation infrastructure like Baltimore City or Baltimore County, that's usually one of the biggest hurdles we come across. So in cases like that, we try to find employers that are within close proximity of the residents or where they actually live. And then find out if the employer has some sort of transportation program that could assist with that transportation piece. I know that there are some of our resource partners that provide a travel voucher or a chit, depending upon, specifically what the transportation need is for a short period of time if someone is hired until they get their first or second paycheck, where they can start covering their transportation needs. But yes, we do work with community partners wherever they are. We'll travel.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. I think I heard there was one other question, maybe somebody.
Yes, this is Beth Hayden.
Good morning.
Hi. I know I'm also a veteran, so I know that coming out of the service, it's very different, especially today. In today's world, they get some decompression, they get some civilian training or whatever. They didn't back in the early 80s. So when people come out of the service and they've been a corpsman, or they've been in the culinary, or they've been in any of the other fields that are not college degreed fields, finding positions can sometimes be a challenge because employers have been trained to require college degrees. The state of Maryland is not requiring that anymore. That I know. So when helping to place veterans, I hear about people all the time, and I have client companies, because I'm an insurance broker, I do health insurance. So those employers are having a hard time finding good staff, whether it's on the medical side, meaning assisting humans that need some medical support, not necessarily an RN, some daily services, but also sign companies, et cetera, are having a very difficult time. If you could send out to all of us your informations from all of you, that would really help us to help our clients and our client companies to find good employees. I think most of the time when someone hires a veteran, they've got someone who's going to get in there and do the job. That's the one thing I know, that my son and I are both veterans and we don't stop. So if you could get that to me, I would be very grateful.
Yep,
Oh,
we'll
sure.
be compiling everybody's information, and again sending that out to all of you, so you'll have that at the ready at your fingertips when needed for yourself or others.
I'd appreciate it because I've got a couple of client companies right now that are desperately trying to hire some very good people, and I know the type of people they need, and I'm thinking completely veteran.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks again, Mark. In the interest of time, we'll move on to our next speaker, again, also from the Department of Labor, Sheila Jackson, to talk about the apprenticeship programs available. Sheila, good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Again, I'm Sheila Jackson with the Department of Labor's apprenticeship team, and I serve in the role as a navigator. Next slide, please. So today I'll be presenting both our registered and youth apprenticeship programs, as we offer two types of apprenticeship programs, one for adults and the other for high school youths. I will begin with the adult program, which we reference as registered apprenticeship. So apprenticeship essentially is an earn and learn strategy combining both on-the-job training with related classroom instruction. And that could, well, actually, it could be classroom or it can be online. And in some cases, it could be a hybrid approach. Apprenticeship programs are sponsored voluntarily by a wide range of organizations, including individual employers, employer associations, joint labor management organizations, and other workforce intermediaries. Next slide, please. So what is apprenticeship? Oftentimes apprenticeship is confused with internships. However, there are distinct differences between the two. Internships are not always paid opportunities, whereby apprenticeships are always paid opportunities. There are key components. So as previously mentioned, on-the-job training, and this must consist of a minimum of 2,000 hours per year and take place at the work site under the direction of a highly skilled journey worker. We use journey worker, as you all may know, that apprenticeship began with the trades. And again, that is someone who is skilled and has the requisite education to be able to train up an apprentice. The other component is the related instruction. And so that would be a minimum of 144 hours per year of the apprenticeship. And what I like to do is break these down, the numbers down to simplest terms, because I feel like there's more of a connection. It makes sense. So 2,000 hours per year basically is 40 hours per week. So that's your average full-time job requirement. And then the related instruction, this is a big one because people are like, well, how am I going to fit related instruction in with the on-the-job training? That is essentially 3 hours per week. So again, that is doable. Next slide, please. Okay, so there are three types of programs. As you can see, there's the time-based approach, competency-based approach, and then you have the hybrid, which incorporates both of time-based and hybrid. Next slide, please. So listed here are 5 components of registered apprenticeship. That includes, of course, business involvement, structured on-the-job training, related instruction, rewards for skills gain. And what that means is the apprentices are paid on what we call a progressive wage scale. So they start off at a percentage of the journey workers' hourly rate. And as their skills and knowledge increase, so does their wages. And then finally, upon completion, a national occupational credential. Next slide, please. Okay, so as you can see, there are benefits for each participant of this program, business and industry. And, in respect of time, I won't read them and read it in its entirety, but basically it's business and industry, educational institutions, and apprentices. There are benefits for all 3 of those components within the program. Next slide, please. So the basic requirements. So this is specific to the well, it's the registered apprenticeship program, but the way we differentiate between the two, we sometimes say it's the adult program. And the individual apprentice must be a minimum of 18 years of age. And they must have a high school diploma, but we do allow for a GED as well, which the state of Maryland, they don't differentiate between the two. It's regarded, the GED is regarded as a high school diploma. So some programs, and I have found it rare to identify those programs, will accept individuals between the ages of 16 and 17 years. And of course, there's a physical ability to perform the duties of the job and transportation. Next slide, please. Okay, so here are some statistics for year ending 2022. There was a record growth, been a record growth since 2012, 58.9%. There are currently 182 active registered apprenticeship programs. And with completion, there were 1,559 in 2022. Next slide, please. Here's a sampling of the various industries that are currently partaking in this apprenticeship model. And as you can see, it has grown well beyond the traditional program. So beginning with HVAC, electrical, plumbing, we have a lot of the non-traditional programs. What I'm finding is a hot button for a lot of the young people is cybersecurity, and then they're also looking into IT. Next slide, please. So here before you are a few success stories that we have received over the years. We have many of them, but just wanted to make that available to show you that a lot of people experience great success, within this program. And I've had the opportunity to actually go and meet with individuals that are currently registered in the program, and their stories are amazing. It's a life-changing opportunity for so many of our apprentices. Next slide, please. So here we have apprenticeship wage outcomes. And, this is interesting to see. So for all apprentices tracked in the study, the median average annual salary 5 years after completion was $82,900. But this is interesting. For all female apprentices, this average was $84,244. And the reason I say this and, shed a light on it is in, past situations, there was always this issue with females being paid lower than their male counterparts. So this is very nice to see. Next slide, please. Okay, so how does one find these apprenticeship opportunities? One may ask. We provide a link for those who are interested in locating these opportunities, and it's by way of our apprenticeship locator. There are more than 100 registered programs and 45 employers participating in the youth apprenticeship program, which is listed on the locator, as well as the registered apprenticeship program. Next slide, please. So this is a screenshot of the first page of the locator upon accessing it. So, and when I'm regularly, I regularly receive emails from those individuals that are asking about first steps. How do I apply for an apprenticeship program? And so what I do is I send them the link to this locator, as well as a list of instructions on how to best navigate the site. And what I always advise those individuals is do not limit yourself to one county. So I always suggest that they check off all counties. And then the next section is for the type of apprenticeship. So regular would be the for the adult program. And then there's the youth high school program. And then they can select either by occupation, industry, or sponsor, because there are those who, you know, come in knowing the exact program that they're interested in partaking in. So we have all of those options. And of course, you know, selecting the sponsor, that minimizes the search. Next slide, please. So this takes you to the second page, which provides you with an overview of a specific program. Now, the one thing that I inform those seekers of an apprenticeship program, as you can see here, under starting wage, it lists $12. That is not accurate. The Department of Labor has no control over updating this information. We are constantly asking the sponsors of the program to update the information, but oftentimes they do not. So I let those who are seeking the opportunity, I let them know, please do not be disenchanted by the wage that you see on that page. Please take the next step and actually speak with the sponsor in greater detail. Next slide, please. All right, so now we're segueing into youth apprenticeship. And basically, youth apprenticeship is a valuable work-based learning opportunity that can provide youth with academic and workplace skills that lead to post-secondary education opportunities and careers through registered apprenticeship. There's a high percentage of individuals that begin in the youth program that actually transition into the adult or registered program. Businesses, workforce professionals, educators, and others are looking at youth apprenticeship as an effective way to start high school students and other youth on a career pathway that leads to good wages and opportunities for advancement. Next slide, please. Okay, so the Youth Apprenticeship Program, formerly known as the Apprenticeship Maryland Program, gives Maryland businesses the unique opportunity to train, influence, and shape high school students into top performing employees by providing opportunities for Maryland's high school juniors and seniors. And, you know, just as with the Registered Apprenticeship Program, it's a learn and earn opportunity. And they can select to participate in the program at various times throughout the year. It can be in the summer. Some of them can start in their junior year. Now that's contingent upon the actual county. Again, I represent Howard, Carroll, and Montgomery County. And both Carroll and Montgomery County, they will take juniors, albeit Howard County will only accept seniors. They must complete at least 450 hours of supervised work-based training and must receive at least 1 year of classroom instruction relating to the student's eligible career track in high growth, high demand industries. And as you can see, okay, that's fine. All right, so. Very good, okay. Okay, so here are youth apprenticeship statistics. As of January 2023, there were 441 youth apprentices within the Apprenticeship Maryland program. Next slide, please. And that concludes my presentation. I thank you for your time and attention, and happy to address any questions that you may have.
Anyone have any immediate questions? Great. I know this is a lot of information for lots of people. Hopefully you're getting good stuff out of it, but it's can be a lot to process. And we've done several sessions on apprenticeships over the last couple of years. And I know I'm still absorbing a lot of the information about apprenticeships. So thank you, Sheila, very much.
Sheila, could I ask a quick question?
Go for it, Ryan.
Ryan Sackett, Anne Arundel County Public Schools, who loves apprenticeship, all forms of apprenticeship. The best way if a business partner is interested in maybe learning more about it, is it to go to the website? What's the best way to reach out to you guys?
So you can reach out, are you saying per county or overall?
Overall, so like if we found business partners, I mean, I know that we work very closely with Jane, but if there's anybody on this call who might not be specifically Anne Arundel County, you know, and they don't know who their navigator is there like a link on the website, like a contact us if you're interested link on the
There
apprenticeship
is,
website?
and there's also an area that lists all the navigators per county. I don't have that link immediately available, but I can get that for you.
Thank you, ma'am. Great job.
We'll definitely include that the website for the locator and the main site too in the handout we're going to create. So, thank you again, Sheila.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Greg, who's with the ARC of the Central Chesapeake. Good morning, Greg.
Good morning. Thank you so much, Jonathan. My name is Greg Snyder, and I serve as Chief of Staff of the ArcCentral Chesapeake region. For those of you that may not be familiar with the ARC, our mission is that we support people with intellectual and developmental disabilities to live the lives they choose by creating opportunities, promoting respect and equity, and providing access to services. At the ARC, we provide a wide range of services for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, including day services, living options services, behavioral health services, and workforce development, which I'm here to talk about today. At the ARC, we believe that employment is a keystone in people's lives, providing financial resources that lead to increased choices, the camaraderie of shared work, the feeling of accomplishment, and a sense of belonging. Working is an important part of life and a key maker of independence, especially for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. At the ARC, we believe that people with disabilities have so much to contribute, and we want to be a partner in that effort. We work with each person on a one-on-one basis to develop and achieve their employment goals with local businesses at a competitive wage. Our workforce development, Director of Workforce Development, facilitates the employment process with skilled guidance, helping people determine the type of work they enjoy and want to pursue in an organized and systematic process. What we call it is our job discovery process. And like I said, a big focus of the ARC is that everything is person-centered and individualized. So our job discovery process is also person-centered and individualized. So our team works with the job seeker to get to know their likes, their dislikes, their skills, the environments that are agreeable or potentially disagreeable to them. And we spend time talking through the tasks that they would like to do when they become employed. Together, we work through their availability, how many hours they would like to work, where they would like to work, what accommodations they may have to have. And we speak with the people who they have identified who could give us their valued insight on the person. Like I said, workforce development team, they work with the people we support all throughout the process. So whether it's the search, the application process, the interview, the acceptance, the job training, providing transportation, our workforce development team provides ongoing day-to-day support once the person has accepted the job, as well as forward-looking career development. So once they get them the job, they don't just abandon them. They help them all throughout the process to see if there are ways for them to potentially move up, just like you and I. So what do Taco Bell, the Naval Academy, Maryland Live Casino, and Chop Tank have in common? Apart from being great places to eat and visit, they are employers. They're actually very progressive as far as their employment of people with disabilities, and they're part of the ARC's workforce development program. Currently, the ARC facilitates a little under 100 people that we support in our workforce development program. And one other thing that I wanted to touch on before I wrapped up is the Kessler Foundation recently released a study that said that people with disabilities reached new employment levels in the year 2022, outperforming their peers without disabilities, actually. So labor shortages across the country, according to Kessler Foundation, meant that there was a disproportionate demand for workers compared to the number of people willing to fill positions. So this had to lead hiring managers and others to break outside their comfort zone and consider different segments of workers. This likely led to a boon for people with disabilities looking for jobs and becoming employed, and something that we at the ARC definitely encourage. People with disabilities, according to the Kessler Foundation, are not participating in the Great Resignation, unlike their counterparts without disabilities. In fact, people with disabilities never left the labor force during the pandemic. Changes to more flexible work arrangements have helped as far as increasing the number of people with disabilities that are hired. And more companies across the country in the state of Maryland are partnering with disability organizations like the ARC in their recruitment efforts, and more are using outside assistance for onboarding workers with disabilities. We also see some employers that we work with adopting training on disability issues and cultural competence, and reaching out to government and local resources regarding any potential accommodations that they may need for their employees that they may not currently have. So that's a little bit about the ARC, the people we support, and I would just end by saying I greatly encourage local businesses and other organizations to consider hiring people with disabilities. They really bring a lot to your company and are hard workers, and we look forward to partnering with everyone to make that a possibility.
Greg, thank you. We have one question that came in from Ryan through the chat. Is could you explain how you might be similar or different than opportunity builders?
We're a little different to opportunity builders. They're a day services program. At the ARC, we have a wide variety of services. So we have day services, we have living option services where people live in homes that are managed by the ARC and have 24-hour staffing. We have our workforce development program. We have personal supports as well, and coaches. So like I mentioned, the ARC supports people of wide abilities and disabilities. So some of the folks that we support have what we call personal coaches, and basically what they do is they set up a schedule throughout the week based off their work schedule, and the folks help them as far as achieving their goals. So whether that's getting a job, going out into community, volunteering, their personal support coach helps them facilitate all those needs.
Great, thank you. Are there any other questions out there for Greg?
Hi, Greg. This is Elexis. I just have a comment. I'm with the Office of Workforce Development. I had the pleasure of going to the ARC in Frederick to a reverse job fair where persons with special abilities had an opportunity to be able to meet the employers, and the employers came in to meet them. And it was a lot of success. It was a great opportunity. Their coaches were there. And many times they didn't even need the coaches. They did a wonderful job. So shout out for the job that you do. Great job.
Thanks so much. We'll be hosting something similar this spring here at our Severn offices. So we look forward to that.
Excellent. Great job.
Any other questions out there for Greg?
Jonathan, Ryan had a follow-up question in the chat.
Oh, okay. Oh, thank you.
Just about transportation, Greg. I didn't know if you guys were busing people to work.
We do. Yep. We support any needs that they may have. So whether that's transportation, different accommodations, our workforce development team sets that up for them.
Greg, do you have any examples of the range of the types of jobs your folks serve?
Yeah, so it's, like I said, it's a wide range. So at the Naval Academy, a lot of our folks there are working in offices or in doing clerical work or in maintenance, just depending on what they want to do. We actually have a lot of our people we support, they are really good office managers. So like front desk greeters is a big one for us. But like I said, it's a wide variety based off of their ability. We have one person that we support who's a manager at a Taco Bell. And surprisingly, Taco Bell is actually a very, they employ a lot of people with disabilities, which is really nice. So we have a good amount of folks that we support that work at Taco Bells throughout the area.
Thank you. Any others for Greg? Oh, actually, Lori's asking a question. Has a date been scheduled for the local ARC event?
It is not, but I'll be sure to send it along to the chamber, and that way they can share it with members.
Great. Well, thank you, Greg. Appreciate you talking about your organization today.
Thank you.
Next, we're going to introduce, or I'm going to introduce two folks together as a tag team. We have two workforce development offices, Elexis Lawson from Howard County, representing Howard County Workforce Development, and Scott Wallace from Arundel Workforce Development to talk together about what they do in their various jurisdictions. And I think you're going to find out that this, at least one of the things I've learned about all of these workforce organizations, is they're glad to cooperate and work together. You can't always say that about all kinds of government agencies, but if you're not quite sure where to begin, I think one of the takeaways from today I'd suggest is just contact one of these people. And if they're not the best fit for you, they'll help you find the next person that might be a better fit for your needs. So without further ado, Elexis and Scott, you're up.
Hey, hello, Elexis Lawson, Howard County Business Engagement Specialist. It's for one thing, I just want to say, it's just an honor to be on here with my partners. Every time I'm on here, I learn something different, something that we can take back to the American Job Center. So thank you, Scott, for being able to talk with me. And a lot of what happens at an American Job Center, Mark, Ellen, Sheila, you've already spoken for us. But Scott, I'll let you introduce yourself.
My name is Scott Wallace. I'm with Arundel Workforce Development Corporation. And as Jonathan so eloquently says, Elexis and I work together all the time. We work with our friends in Baltimore County, Baltimore City, Prince George's County too. So we really try to get maximum outreach for your needs. And the way we both view this is the customer, our customer is the business. What can we do to help you? And I always put help you to thrive is what I put in there. So Elexis, if you want to kick it off. Elexis so graciously did some slides. I slacked off and didn't do any slides, so that's my fault. But Elexis took the lead on that, so I'm going to run along with her on that.
Okay, can you see my slide?
Not yet.
Not yet? Okay. Let's see. Here's Guy.
Oh.
No.
We see your desktop.
You see my, you don't want to see my desktop. Okay, can you see?
Yes.
Okay, good. So one of what's big, I think, that I wanted to share with Scott is our funding options. So typically when we're working with businesses, a lot of times what businesses want to know is funding. What can we do for them? So incumbent funding, and Scott, I know you agree as well, and on-the-job training funding is huge when we're looking at how do we help a business. Typically, when we're looking at our job seekers, is how do we help that job seeker get back to work? So when I'm able to look at incumbent funding for your staff, your pre-existing staff, for that small to mid-sized companies of 50 or less, that is something in-demand occupations, whether it's IT, healthcare, hospitality. This is a great funding options, certifications to get your job seekers upskilled. We offer this many times. You know, you bring them in a certain level and then you can upskill them. And what I love about the incumbent, especially during now, is that we can do this as a group. So when you're looking at your team and you're looking at what can I do to upskill, we're going to look at our incumbent funding, 50% reimbursement, which is always an option. And Scott, in your area, have you been doing incumbent funding and how successful have you been?
Yes, we've got an incumbent worker funding training funding program also. Ours is a little different. That's one thing you'll find out about each workforce area, whether it be us in Howard County, us in Baltimore County, wherever it may be. We're a little different. We all have the same mission, but we're a little different on how we reach that mission, I guess you'd say. For our incumbent worker program, it can be any company that has a presence in Anne Arundel County. So we don't have the 50 member employee limit or anything like that. And as Alexis said, these can be for people that are in any positions at your company. Basically, what we say is we'll look at the position in demand. Yes, that's priority, but we'll look at any position to see if it fits. And basically, what we do is we look for a skill gain, meaning a recognized industry credential and or a pay raise, if you will, for that individual. And don't think that has to be thousands and thousands of dollars. No, it can be from $18 to $20 an hour or something like that. It doesn't, and it all depends on the training you're looking to send them to versus the amount of the pay raise, but it doesn't even have to have a pay raise. So that's one of the unique things. But we kind of see this as a retention tool for businesses too.
Absolutely.
People are more likely to stay with a company who's willing to invest in them. They don't even have to know we're bringing our 50% to the table. We do need a little information on the individual. Then there is some paperwork that the individual has to fill out, but we try to minimize that as much as possible. But we want you to use this program and just leave us in the shadow. Just make sure we do the paperwork. That's all I ask. And we can, as Alexis said, we can do groups too. So as long as 51% of the people in the group are 6 months or more, we can do the training. And this could be online, virtual, hybrid, in person. Even if you're sending some people out to training, there's certain things we can cover on that and certain things we can't, but we can hash out all those details. And one thing I know we can't cover, no matter where the training is the individual salary while they're in the training program, the person that's getting trained. However, if you're doing an in-house training, we can count that person's salary, that their training hours, towards the cost of the training. So it's a lot of pieces, parts. I know Alexis knows it way better than I do, but we can kind of sit down and talk with you and glue it all together and come up with the best solution for you to see how it works. And ours caps out at $25,000 per company per year. I don't know what your cap is, Alexis.
Same thing. Caps out. And that's what I love about working with other counties is, if a company is located in our county, then we can, or in Scotts County and Arundel, we can just simply say, hey, look, and many times companies will move, they'll move counties. So, so we always support each other in that respect. So that I think is important funding to be able to share. My favorite is on the job training, OJT money. So for that candidate that you have not yet hired, and that's how it is at Howard, and I think, Scott, you're pretty much the same as well. We can do a training contract to offset their training. If there is someone there who could train them. So say if you're gonna pay $8 an hour, we can offset it $4 for a particular time, for a short period of time. One, it cannot be your onboarding training. So it's something that you say, there's a skill gap. So you say, if they had that one skill, I would hire them. So then we can look at on-the-job training funding. And what's great about this, it's a training contract. It's somebody that you might not hire. Either you identify the person or we can as well. We've had a lot of success. There's a lot of people may come in. So we had this company here, a dermatology company, cosmetology, that came in and as an assistant, but they needed them to go a higher level. So somebody was there to train them. So it could be seen as a pipeline to bring a person in, come in, train them, offset their training, but it cannot be onboarding. So I think that's the key. We like businesses to understand, here's a person that you would hire if they had that one quality. But they offset their skill gap. Scott, you definitely, I want you to speak as well. I want to see if yours is the same.
It's pretty close. We say it a little differently. I call it the missing piece. So if you're like, I would hire this person, but, and that but is trainable, by having them in the job for so long. What we do, much like Alexis does, is we work with you to figure out what the skill gap is. Figure out, well, what are the training steps to get that skill gap filled? And then how long would we take? We'd work with you on that. And obviously it may take longer for somebody. If somebody has stepped out of the accounting world for 2 years and maybe some new softwares come out or something like that, that training might be relatively short so they can learn that new software. But it's someone who may have been out 10 years may need more training in that world. So that contract may be a little bit longer. But here again, we'd work with you on an individualized basis to figure that out. And then
Mhm.
basically week 1, they would learn this, week 2, that, week 3, week 4, right on down the line, whatever number of weeks it is. And at the end of that hopefully they're full, that missing piece has been plugged, that piece has been made, that piece is good to go, and they're up and running with you. And you've, as a company, you've only had to we've helped you keep 50% of that person, keep 50% of that person's salary
But
during
offset
this
it.
learning curve. So, but please,
Exactly.
one thing I want to add to Elexis is, if you're going to do this, don't train them and then come to us and say, I want my
That's right.
50%.
Good point.
Please, we got to get the paperwork done before this. I had that happen to a
Sign
company.
off
That's why I say that,
first.
because I
Thank
felt
you.
really bad when I
And-
had to go back and say, we can't do that. So
That's right.
please work with us first and we'll get it done. And then we'll move forward.
Amen. And there's also an accountability piece as well. So we want to kind of check in with you. How's it going? Because maybe it's not a good fit or something. So we want to be able to kind of handhold the process as well, and making sure we're looking at that training contact as well. So I just
And-
wanted to make sure that there's an accountability piece to that as well.
And
But
if
a
it
great
does-
opportunity.
Yeah, and if it does turn out not to be a fit, or the person disappears on you or something like that, that is no harm, no foul against you. It happens. We hope it doesn't, but it does. And so it's not like you owe us money back or anything like that. We'll pay up to that hour that they left you, so to speak. And hopefully you'll do this again with us and we'll find somebody new, better, however that may look. So.
Excellent. And then the next couple of slides is because we've had Sheila Jackson actually on. So we've had the pleasure of Sheila Jackson. We won't necessarily talking about it, but we do have an apprenticeship coordinator. And I believe, Scott, you may as well, that works very closely with Sheila. So we're representing Sheila being the state, and she works with Dolly Bermudez, which is a great team member as well. And Sheila, I know you can speak to that. So that way you've got the county and you've got the state working together in a coordinated effort, looking at all these pieces of business involvement structured on the job training, so that we can provide as many resources as we can to our areas. So shout out to you, Sheila. And Dolly would want me to just basically just mention her contact information. And what I love about your slide, Sheila, is you talk about the benefits. And I know we didn't have a lot of time to talk about that, but there are so many benefits to an apprenticeship, being a registered apprenticeship. And we're just trying to get as many companies, and even your non-traditional apprenticeships as well, into the program. So shout out to you, both of you, for being able to offer that. And this just our contact information. We love to talk to you at the American Job Center. We do hiring events, and great job, Mark and Ellen, for explaining what we do. And we're here to help.
And just to kind of cap off what Alexis was saying, yeah, apprenticeship has a lot of real bonuses for both the business and the individual. We are in the process of hiring an apprenticeship navigator, because at the local level, and as was mentioned earlier, Jane Sinclair is our state person, both great people, but she really partners with us really well right now, and we've seen the potential in apprenticeship and the growth in apprenticeship, and we decided that we need to get someone that focuses on that, so that you as the business don't have to get bogged down in that as much in that apprenticeship paperwork and that kind of stuff, especially if you're starting a new one. Let us worry about that, but work with you as that business to build that apprenticeship along with our state partners and get it approved through the state and everything else, so that there can be a new apprenticeship created somewhere where maybe one is not right now. The state's doing a lot of creative things in terms of apprenticeship. They're going in totally different directions. And I think it was mentioned earlier by Sheila, a lot of people think apprenticeship and they think electrical, plumber, carpenter, those kinds of things. And they're great, but they're taking that same model and applying it to IT, to construction. Oh, it's already been in construction, but different parts of construction, maybe healthcare, on and on and on and on. So they're really pushing that in a lot of different directions. And I think we're going to see a lot of growth. I know we're going to see a lot of growth in the next several years, because it really seems to be the way to go. And Sheila, maybe you have the statistic, but somebody that goes through apprenticeship is dramatically more likely to stay with the company. I don't remember the number, but it is just like, it's really high, and I don't even want to say a number because I'm thinking it's like 90+% to stay with that company after the apprenticeship. So it's not like you train them and they leave. They
No,
train them, they see
retention.
you've invested in them, and and they know the company's investing in me, and they'll probably invest in me in the future too. So it's a real great retention tool.
Thank you both. We have several questions in the chat. The first one, Ned, I'm not sure if yours is still outstanding or has it been answered about incumbent funding. Would you like to clarify?
Yes, hello, and thank you. This is all wonderful information. Where do you get your funding from? So when you say incumbent funding, what that is that something coming from the federal or state? Is it something that's just allocated? Is it something specifically just because you're a county government?
Speaking for Anne Arundel County, because Howard may be a little different. We use, yes, all of the above, federal, state, local, and foundation dollars, if you will, or independent grants. We try to pull a little bit. We call it braiding funds, or it's called different things in different places. But we always try to maximize our funding by braiding funds and using funds, because depending on certain factors, we can use this money, and other factors we have to use that money. But we braid it all together to make it all happen. And I always kind of tell people, you don't want to see sausage being made, so let us make the sausage, but we'll get with you on the good part. We'll get with you on the sausage, not the making of the sausage. So,
yes. And I had another question on the apprentice. Is there an age limitation? Is it from 14 to 30, or is it, just for kids in high school? Is it for adults? And I'm curious to find out what the the success rate is for anyone over 25.
Sheila, do you want to?
Yes, so we have two different programs. So the one, the Apprenticeship Maryland program, otherwise known as the youth program, that is for high school students. And they typically begin the apprenticeship program in their junior year. That's for certain counties. Now, we do have other counties that they have chosen to just work with seniors. So the minimum age would be 16 years for high school. And then for the registered program, which is the adult program, the requirement would be 18 years of age and accompanying a high school diploma.
And I don't believe there's any upper limit, right?
Yeah, no maximum, right, Sheila?
Yeah, you can be any age and join an apprenticeship, right?
That's what I
Okay,
thought.
I missed that piece. You know what? It's so funny.
Yeah.
Because when I do like career fairs or what have you, I say, while there is a minimum age for participation, there is no maximum age.
That's what I thought.
I am not joking. I had a couple of people who were 70 years of age that reached out to me with interest in apprenticeship programs. So there is no maximum age. I know, bravo, right?
That's great. That's awesome.
And I don't know the answer to your question about how the retention, like percentages of retention for 25-year-olds or whatever, but overall, I know the retention is phenomenal. So I can't imagine that there's one population that it doesn't really stick for as opposed to others, but it really works for everybody, because a person is getting more or less automatic pay raises as long as they make that next layer. And as was said earlier, sometimes the layers are ventured on classes plus time. Sometimes they're based on skill. So it depends on how that particular one's set up. But they know every so often they're going to get a pay raise right up to the, pardon my expression, but the journeyman rate, because journeyman's a term that they use in the construction field. But there are set levels at each step where they're going to make this much more when they master those skills, kind of speaking.
Right.
So,
this is just awesome. The reason why I asked that, because my organization deals with primarily single mothers who are looking for work. And we kind of have an offshoot of what you do, but their primary barrier is childcare and transportation. So the benefits of what you do is enormous. It's fantastic. But childcare could be a barrier for many of them to be able to get benefits of, these workforce programs.
Well,
So that was the main reason why I asked what was the sustainability in it, especially, that opportunity is there. Do they stay or they can't stay, or they lack transportation, or they lack childcare? Yeah.
I believe Mark said it, I could be wrong, but we have what we call wraparound services available through the local workforce system. And that could be things just like you were saying. It could be, to use Mark's word, I believe it was, you could get chits or passes or something like that. I know in the past we've set people up with so many Uber rides to just get them started, but also working with them to say, okay, we're going to cover you for the first month, 2 weeks, whatever it may be. But from then on, you got to start saving this much each pay period so that you can continue doing this, that kind of thing. Child care vouchers, things along those lines are also part of our wraparound services. We just have to make the person eligible for one of the funding streams that we have, which we've got many different funding streams and many different avenues. So we would need to work our people side, if you will, would need to work with that individual to figure out which are those streams that apply to them.
And we have two, I believe, related questions coming in from Ryan and Kimberly related to, I think they're related to the incumbent employees training programs or training funding. And they're, is there a list of recognized credentials, or could you give us some examples of those?
Elexis, do you want to?
Which county is, I'm just curious which county, I just want to make sure.
Hello, this is Kimberly. We are located in Howard County,
You
and
are.
it's specific to the hospitality industry. For example, I know it can't be related to onboarding, but perhaps we help them get a food service certification, things of that nature. Is there a list available that we could possibly, work off of for?
Definitely. I would love to work with you one-on-one, but definitely like the food safe, I think it's Safe Serve, I think it is. But there are several hospitality certifications. We worked with, I'm trying to think of some of the restaurants in the area, but yeah, we can talk offline and we might be able to just sit down and work with you and meet with you and give you the application. But definitely all the in-demand certifications, hospitality, Safe Serve. So there are a lot of them. There's a list. So I'd love to be able to talk to you offline, especially if you're in my county, and if we could sit down and talk offline.
And we, in Anne Arundel, we look at it this way. We don't know your industries as well as you do, so you know what the recognized credentials are. And as long as they're industry recognized credentials and not just say for just your company, so to speak, then that's what we look at. And it can be any credential at any level, as long as it's an industry recognized credential and or they get a bump in pay by completing that credential.
Great.
And as a group as well.
Thank you both so much.
Yep.
Another question's come in about the on-the-job training. Is this, could you clarify if it's for a new hire or an existing incumbent employee?
I'll handle that. That's the difference. So OJT is a new hire on the job training, and incumbent is for your pre-existing staff. And
However,
OJT, yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, however, the OJT is and that's a difference in our world, but you could use that same training pattern for an incumbent worker training. So it could be on the job training for that person too. So it's just our terminology, whether it's new person or old person, what we call it, and then, but it can look the same kind of methodology, if you will, could apply in either place in our world.
That's why you have to come talk to us.
Yeah.
Another question was asked about how can you connect with one of the, I believe it's the apprenticeship coordinator was the question. Would they just reach out to each of you in your various workforce offices and you connect them, or Sheila, or this kind of open question for any of you?
Most definitely.
I can provide a list of the contact information. I don't have it readily available, but I can follow up with that.
And we can add that to the handout that we're going to distribute after it too, to give some further clarification or further context.
Okay, very good.
I think there was one more I'm just kind of skimming through here. I think Ryan, you were just making a note. I'm not sure if anybody has any thought. Any of the panelists have a question, and we're kind of in the open period of questions right now. about solving transportation issues for students, or to me, this would apply to adults as well. Do the counties have programs of connecting people to transportation?
There is some funding that we could look at under one of the, I think it's called the ARPA funding, that we could look at, and we would have to talk about, it's case by case.
So Jonathan, there are programs within the Maryland Department of Transportation that assist with transportation needs.
Oh, thank you.
I'm happy to share that with you so you can send
Yeah,
that out. to the
We
group.
could add that to the handout too. That'd be great, Lori. Thank you. Well, again,
Can I go on to that, when we're working with individuals with particular barriers to employment, that could be any number of things that most of us who specialize in, subsets of job seekers do a lot of networking with local organizations who have other funding, and often will step up. It's not always immediately when you need it, but there are several organizations right in Arundel County that I know would go there and get funding and provide transportation for, a set number of people. So we try to coordinate that for people so you don't have to see it.
Great, thank you. Are there any, this is open question period. Anybody has any questions for any of the panelists?
Scheherazade has her hand raised.
Oh.
Scheherazade, do you want to unmute and ask your question?
Yes, hello. Thank you so much, all. Thank you for the panelists and the hosts. I've received a lot of information. My question is that a couple of us, we had deal with neurodiverse autistic adults. And I know through the apprenticeship program, the DOORS, Division of Rehabilitation Services, they sometimes assist us with the apprenticeship. But when a person still has that type of barrier, it's still really hard for us to get some understanding because they don't have high school diplomas. So the coordinator that was spoken about, is that a person that we can use to assist us with that population of adults?
Was that Ellen? Is it for Ellen? For reentry?
It's for any adult that I'm not sure. I heard someone speak about a coordinator for apprenticeship, and I was just wondering if that coordinator also is a person that we can reach out to as well for the companies that provide those services for the neurodiverse or autistic adults. Will they assist us with the apprenticeship program and with these employers with some type of communication and being able to speak about the ability that the person has and what they would like to gain?
Okay, so just for clarity, so Ellen presented on reentry, and those are like formerly incarcerated individuals. Is that what you were speaking specifically to?
No, I think she was speaking more for the apprenticeship coordinators that I think are, if I understood you correctly, Scheherazade, the actual coordinators that actually sit in the American Job Center. Is that your question?
Yes.
Okay. The actual coordinators, she's trying to make the link between coordinators and what she does.
Mm-hmm.
So, and so in Howard County, that would be Dolly Bermudez. In my opinion, Scheherazade, I would actually get in touch with the actual American Job Center, because I think that your specific question, because, we're sitting here and we're partnered with Department of Rehabilitative Services. We got Department of Labor. And I know you've actually met with Francine Trout, my boss. So I think that's a great question. And I actually think that we as a team could actually sit down and talk about it and make sure that we're all working together to be able to see, because that's a specific question. But I think you could take that back to the American Job Center. And I think that's a great question.
Thank you so much, Elexis.
You're welcome.
I'll add to that. The job specialists at every American Job Center, both on the state side and the county side, are all basically trained in helping any job seeker to get the resources they need to get into the programming and the career path that they need. So for example, over here at Arundel Workforce Development Corporation, there are a ton of people who We'll make sure that a person hooks up with the services they need to address or accommodate any disability. We'll make sure and connect them and help guide them through the process for applying to an apprenticeship. We'll make sure that if they're enrolled for services and need additional supports, that it's known by the person managing that case. But we're all, I say we, I'm referring mainly to the people who spend 24, 40 hours a week working with job seekers to get them into careers. It's what they do. So if a person came from your organization, they would get the support they need.
And Shaharazad
Thank you so-
also, our apprenticeship coordinator mainly works with the employers in the program, not as much with the job seekers. That's why I said that I would take that question back to the American Job Center.
Okay, I will reach out to them.
Are there any other questions out there? Going once, twice. Levels, I think just while you guys kind of have some maybe last minute thinking, the rest of this, what we're going to do is we'll have a brief kind of conclusion to this, and then before we break into the breakout rooms, once we do the breakout rooms, we won't be coming back together again for this session. So if you want to talk specifically with any one of our presenters, Kim will be doing the breakout rooms and can tell you which breakout room to enter, so you can exchange contact information or whatever and schedule follow-up. But before we do that, I would like to thank all of our panelists, Ellen and Mark and Sheila and Greg and Elexis and Scott, for contributing some wonderful information. Hopefully you all can make use of this information. Again, we'll be following up with a handout that has lots of contact information and more helpful resources so that all of you can find great fit candidates for keeping your business going or your organization going. So thank you to all the presenters. And Christy, do you have anything you want to say?
No, you pretty much covered it. I was just going to thank you for being our incredible moderator today. And also to thank all of our panelists, which you've done. So thank you all for attending and joining us. And as Jonathan said, we will follow up later this afternoon with a bunch of resources to help you out. So everyone can just hang on if you plan to stay for breakout rooms, and we can take care of that. But if you have to log off, that's great too. Have a
Appreciate all of you joining us. Yes, thank you.
Thank you.